Hi guys, this is Emily Gunn. I'm presenting my Module 13 case study. A good teacher turns bad. Stress at home causes problems at school. So first of all, a summary of the case study. So we have Mrs. Wilson. She's the principal at Crestview Elementary. And we have a veteran staff member, Mrs. Horton, who is having some difficulties at home. Her husband left and she was raising two teenage boys on her own. Mrs. Horton recently disagreed with a new reading program that the school was piloting, and she berated her colleagues who supported the program. She pretty much ignored what Mrs. Wilson had tried to get to when Mrs. Wilson spoke with her, trying to get her on board. And then once into the school year, Mrs. Wilson began receiving phone calls from parents that were saying that Mrs. Horton was verbally abusive to students. She was late to work, and she was refusing to hold parent-teacher conferences. A conference was scheduled and held between Mrs. Wilson and Mrs. Horton and a student, where Mrs. Horton had a very angry outburst. So that leads us to where we're at now. So, identifying the problem and problem analysis. So, first of all, what do I know? I know that Mrs. Horton is having some trouble at home, and it's definitely affecting the work environment. In that she is mistreating her students and her colleagues. The school is receiving concerns and complaints from parents. I know that also she was very confrontational and defensive with a parent, and she has been disregarding directives that have been given from Mrs. Wilson. What do I need to know? I need to know maybe some specific incidences from children and parents, and that might be just as simple as the administration talking to children. I need to know what some underlying issues are. I mean, we know there's a problem at home, but apparently it hasn't been resolved. And are there some other underlying issues that might be happening at school? I also need to know what my district's policy is in regards to holding parent-teacher conferences and letting a teacher go, giving them some sabbatical leave, getting them help. So I really need to know what those district policies are. And I also need to know what's been documented and what hasn't. And it says that walkthroughs had been happening, but I need to know if all of this has been documented. And I also really need to know if Mrs. Horton is getting any professional help in dealing with the stress of things that are happening in her personal life, and dealing with everything there, and maybe some anger management things going on. So identifying the problem, what I do know and what the problem is at this point is Mrs. Horton is ineffective in the classroom because of her personal life interfering. I know that there are also parental concerns, and that those are coming in frequently to the principal's office and to the school board. And all of this seems to be stemming from some personal issues in Mrs. Horton's life. So my proposed plan of action would begin to, first of all, investigate the situation, investigate what's happening in the classroom. It says informal walkthroughs have been done. Do some more. Talk to teachers in surrounding classrooms. Talk to students that are in there and find out what's really going on. And then I would probably meet with the superintendent and say, hey, so here's what's been happening. You know, there's concerns from parents. I've met with parents and kind of give him the history and get him or her caught up. And I would find out what our district's policy is in regards to the proposed plan of action and what kinds of things that I need to do from there. Then I would meet with Mrs. Horton and kind of lay it all out on the table and let her know that there's some concerns, and probably start with a plan of improvement. Here are some things that I have seen, here are some things that have been reported, and we're going to do better, and here's how we're going to do it. And sometimes it's hard for veteran teachers to have a mentor, and I say get them a mentor, maybe not even a mentor, maybe a team teacher, and maybe just ensure that there is a collegial relationship with a teacher in the building that they can talk to maybe about their personal life and things that are going on. and possibly also get her a teacher's aide or a paraprofessional who can help in the classroom and help alleviate some of the stress from the day-to-day things that happen there also. I would also implement a lot more frequent walkthroughs, just so the principal is visible more often in that classroom. From there, I would also encourage professional help, possibly through an employee assistance program, and talk to like the school counselor and those kinds of people about getting some help for Mrs. Horton. And then as things are monitored and continually checked in upon, and if there is no improvement or change, check into maybe a sabbatical leave for Mrs. Horton. Of course, if that's school policy. If it's not school policy, if it's school policy, if there's no change to release her from her contract, then I would follow the school policy. But I would say probably more often than not that we would probably give her an opportunity to, hey, let's get you some professional help. Let's get you an extended leave of absence so that you can come back and be effective in the classroom. I would meet with the parents also and explain to them what's been going on and that we have a teacher who's needing some help and we're going to get them that help. And then I would reassign students to other classrooms if need be, or possibly even hire a long-term substitute if that's what's in best interest of the kids. And again, I think a lot of this also depends upon what the school's policy is and what kind of policies they have in place. And all of this is contingent, again, on if there's no improvement or change from the previous steps that we have taken. So category 3, resolving the issues based upon what is best for the students. Well, what's best for the students is an effective teacher in the classroom. Effective teacher, being like using sound instructional strategies and having a good personal well-being for themselves as well. So the teacher can't be effective if they're having some personal things that are affecting their work life. So by adding a team teacher or a teacher's aide, that's going to alleviate some stress in the classroom, and that in effect helps those students and does what's best for them. I would get them some professional stress management help. Again, employee assistance program, or even some professional development, not just for that teacher, but for a lot of teachers. Teaching is stressful, and I feel like if we can help them with stress management, that would be what's best for all of our students as well. I think we need to also increase in the communication between the teacher and the administrator and let them know that we really are here for them and supporting them, and that we want what's best for them and what's best for the students. And possible with the mentor or a team teacher to help them with the new reading curriculum. It could be that the stress at home plus the stress of a new curriculum is leading to all of this. So I think kind of tackling all of those problems with the new curriculum and with the issues at home would be what's best for students. So to talk about what I was thinking, feeling, valuing as I was reading through the case study and doing some reflecting, I really had a concern for the students. I didn't, are students getting what's best and the most effective teacher that they can at the time? I really felt empathetic for Mrs. Horton. I think we can all relate to things happening in our personal lives or at home that do somewhat infiltrate our attitudes and our demeanor for a day or a week, or some things that, infiltrate into our classrooms. And so I think I really was feeling some empathy for her. Also some frustration with her also, because we really have to learn how to manage and balance our work lives and our personal lives and know when we need to seek some help, so that things at work don't start sliding downhill as well. I valued that Mrs. Wilson set up the meeting with Mrs. Horton and the parent. However, I really felt like Mrs. Wilson should have met with the parent alone prior to that, and with Mrs. Horton prior to that parent meeting, so we could have maybe prevented the conversation from escalating the way it did and from escalating so quickly. Some unresolved issues. I feel like maybe Mrs. Horton feels like she's on an island. It doesn't really have any collegial relationships with our coworkers. So I feel like those are some things that we could work on in that building, maybe some team building, some culture building within the building. We need to talk about professional behavior with parents and how we interact with them and how we handle them. And we need to talk about classroom expectations and how we allow our personal lives to really affect our work lives and ensuring that they don't take over our entire classroom and our entire demeanor and teaching in the classroom. So as I reflect on Standard 2, how does I, as the educational leader, promote the academic success of the student? Well, the concern for every student, ensuring that they have the most effective teacher in the classroom by investigating the situation via adults, students, parents. I mean, I feel like that's helping promoting their success, really taking into account what those students need and what's best for them. And by getting teacher professional help if needed, assigning mentor, teacher aide, team teacher, and leave of absence, that all, the teacher's well-being and state of mind directly impact the academic success of the students. So by attacking the problem as a whole from the teacher's side, that really is going to ensure we have the most effective teacher in the classroom. Now, how did I ensure and promote the well-being of the student? Again, teachers who are dealing with stresses from home and letting that impact their classroom, they really need an instructional leader to step up and help them so that the well-being of the student is taken care of. And so again, by tackling all those same problems, by investigating, getting help, team teachers, mentors, teacher aides, that's ensuring that the well-being of my students are being cared for and concerned for, and ensuring that those parent-teacher conferences are happening, and so that parents and our students know that they have a voice and that we really are concerned about the whole child, not just their academic progress. And then Standard 2 in relation to instructional capacity. And I kind of leave all these same things on here because they all go hand in hand. We all have concern for the student. The most effective teachers have to have sound instructional strategies. And it sounds like Mrs. Horton did have those. Again, some outside things are influencing classroom and instructional behavior. So by exhibiting the concern for the students, investigating the situation, getting help, professional help, assigning additional adults to the classroom, really help enhance the teacher's ability to do their job effectively and to ensure that sound instructional practices are happening so that each student can learn, is successful, that the entire child is taken care of, and that the instructional capacity and capability of the teacher is continuing to grow. And that's my case study. Thank you for